was about to enter a village of Brahmins. Knowing that the miraculous power of the Buddha would convert his subjects, the king was very worried and agitated. If he comes here today, would everyone still love me? He said to himself. And so he issued the following edict. Whoever gives food to the Buddha or listens to his words will be fined 500 karspanas. Hardly had the edict been issued than the Buddha arrived. Preceding Ananda and holding his begging bowl, he entered the village to beg for his food. All the inhabitants had closed their doors and did not respond. The Buddha returned with his bowl empty. At that time, there was an old woman in a house in place of Lao Chgen. Read Lao Niu Gen as in the rest of the story, who had in her hands a chipped clay dish full of foul broth which she had come out onto her doorstep to throw away. She saw the Buddha who was going away with his empty bowl. Seeing the Buddha with his major marks, his minor marks, his golden color, his urna, his usnisa, and his aureole 1 armspan in breadth returning with an empty bowl and without food, the old woman thought, a being as marvelous as this ought to eat the food of the gods. If he is embodied and begs with his bowl, it is surely out of loving kindness and compassion for all beings. Filled with pure faith, she wanted to make an offering to the Buddha. But not having what she would have liked to give, she said, quite confused, to the Buddha, I would very much like to make offerings to you, but I do not have the means. Here is some spoiled food. The Buddha can take what he needs. Knowing the purity of her mind, her faith, and her veneration, the Buddha stretched out his hand and received in his bowl the food which was given to him. Then he began to smile and emitted rays of 5 colors that lighted up heaven and earth and returned to him through his urna. Joining his palms together and bending his knee, Ananda said to the Buddha, Bhagavath, I would like to hear the reason why you smile. The Buddha said to Ananda, do you see this old woman who, out of a mind of faith, has given me some food? Ananda replied that he saw her. The Buddha continued, this old woman who has given food to the Buddha will receive the reward for her merit for 15 kalpas among gods and humans and will not fall into the bad destinies. Later, she will receive a human male body, will leave home and practice the path. She will become a Pratyeka Buddha and will enter nirvana without residue. There was, at that moment near the Buddha, a Brahmin who spoke the following stanza. You are of the solar race, from a family of Kshatriyas. You are the crown prince of King Suddhodana, but you are a great liar about this food. How could the gift of such foul food have such a great reward? Then the Buddha put out his broad tongue and, covering his face with it up to his hairline, he said to the Brahmin, you have read the texts. The person who has such a tongue, would he tell lies? The Brahmin replied, the person whose tongue can cover his nose tells no lies. What can be said about the person whose tongue reaches his hairline? I fully believe that the Buddha does not lie, but I do not understand how such a small gift can assure such a great reward. Then the Buddha said to the Brahmin, have you ever seen something extraordinary and rare? The Brahmin replied, I have. Once I was traveling with some other Brahmins and I saw a Nyagradha tree the shade of which covered 500 chariots without being completely used up. That was an extraordinary and rare thing. The Buddha then asked him, what was the size of the seed of that tree? He answered, it was a third as big as a mustard seed. The Buddha said, who would believe you when you say that such a big tree could come from such a small seed? The Brahmin answered, nevertheless, that is so, Bhagavath. I saw it with my own eyes, it is not a lie. The Buddha said, it is the same for me. I see that this old woman who has given alms to the Buddha with faith and pure mind will attain a great fruit of retribution, just like a big tree comes from a tiny seed. Besides, the Tathagata is a field of merit filled with marvels. The Brahmin's heart opened and his mind was liberated. Prostrating himself on the ground with all 5 limbs, he repented of his error and said to the Buddha, it was foolish of me not to believe the Buddha. The Buddha preached the Dharma in many ways to him, and the Brahmin obtained the first fruit of the path, namely, Srotapatifala. Then raising his hand, he uttered a great shout and addressed the villagers thus: "The gates of immortality are open to all beings. Why do you not enter therein?" All the Brahmins in the village paid the 500 karspanas and went with the king to the Buddha and paid homage to him. They all said, "When one can attain the taste of immortality, who cares for 500 karspanas?" The inhabitants went in a crowd and the royal edict was abrogated. The king of the Brahmins and his ministers and subjects took refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma. All the villagers attained pure faith. It is thus that the Buddha puts out his broad tongue to convert the unbelievers. Question. In the case of the Brahmin, the Buddha put out his tongue and covered his face with it. How is it that here his tongue and his rays extend as far as the Trisahasra Mahasmahasra Lokadhetu? Answer. When it was a matter of people of little faith, the Buddha's tongue was limited to covering his face up to his hairline. But here it is a matter of the great interests of the Prajnaparamita, so his long tongue covers the entire Trisahasra Mahasasra Lokadhetu. Question. If it is already extraordinary that all the inhabitants of one village should be able to see the Buddha's tongue, is it not still more extraordinary that when he preaches the Prajnaparamita, all the great assemblies of this region and others should also be able to see it? Besides, the range of the human eye does not go beyond a certain number of li, and you assume here that it extends to an entire Trisahasra Mahasahasra Lokadhetu. Since the eye does not see that far, that is difficult to believe. Answer. The Buddha uses his miraculous power skillfully so that all beings can see his tongue cover the Trisahasra Mahasahasra Lokadhetu. If the Buddha did not communicate his miraculous power to them, even the bodhisattvas of the 10 bhumis would not know the Buddha's mind, but if he does communicate his miraculous power, the animals themselves know the mind of the Buddha. It is thanks to this intervention that, in one of the following chapters of the Prajnaparamita, all the people see the assembly of the Buddha at Tchou and contemplate it face to face. And when the Buddha had spoken of the various splendors of the universe of Buddha Amitio, Amitpa, and when Ananda had said to him, "I would like to see them," the Buddha caused the entire assembly to see the splendors of the universe of Buddha Wao Lim Shiu. It is the same for seeing the tongue of the Buddha. With his long tongue, the Buddha covers the Trisahasra Mahasahasra Lokadhetu, then he begins to smile. The reasons for this smile are the same as above. Question. Previously, the Buddha had emitted rays from his tongue. Why does he again emit rays from his tongue? Answer. 1. Because he wants all beings to have solid faith.